Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. In Yoga Vasishta, Vasishta advises Rama. There he says, there is nothing in the world which is not possible to be achieved by Purushartha. The usage of Purushartha, self-effort, you can achieve anything in this world. All that you can aspire for in life you attain, achieve. There is no force. The world exists beyond Purushartha. But then when in practical life, when we look into, we do see a disparity. We don't seem to experience that absolute freedom. At the same time, we don't seem to be living a life of absolute bondage also. There is freedom we experience. Also, we experience bondage. We are bound in one way, we are free in another way. That's why they give this example of a railway track. The rails are free to move on the track, but the rails cannot move beyond the track. It can move only within the track. It cannot go beyond it. But within that track, wherever you want to lay the railway tracks, you can lay the railway tracks and then you can move in that direction. There's no problem. You can put the railway track anywhere. Any part of the earth you can put it up. That freedom is there. But once you have laid the track in that particular direction, in this particular route, after that the train has to move. The engine has to move only on that track. It cannot move anywhere. Therein we do experience both. There is freedom. At the same time, there is some restrictions to the freedom also. Does it mean which is influencing what? That's where he gave these two examples to us. These two examples explain what is the relationship between this prarabdha and purushartha. The current purushartha and current prarabdha are independent forces. But when it manifests together. They are independent. One doesn't influence the other. But when you see the effect of it, if you want to register the effect of prarabdha or you want to register the effect of purushartha, you cannot do it independently. You have to do them together only. You cannot isolately understand prarabdha's impact in your life, nor you can isolate and understand the effect of purushartha. It will always work together. Because our experience shows that we are bound by our own destiny. We are bound. However, the free will and destiny are independent. Remember that. They are independent. There is no connection between the two. That's why these two examples are very important for us to understand. The example he gives, the motorboat example, or also the example. Now then you can go on adding examples. Then you can add examples to our freedom. Like I gave just now, I gave the example of railway track and rails and the engine. The engine can move anywhere, but this you cannot. Same way you can change it to road and car. You can put road anywhere, but the car has to move on the road only. Right? When it is moving on the road, when the train is moving on the tracks, you have a choice. What is the choice you have? The choice that you have with you is you can decide where you want to go. The destination can be decided by you. That freedom you have got. That freedom is what is referred as Purushartha. What is the destination? They said there are 4 destinations we have. What is that? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. In that, this Artha, Kama, Moksha is the end. The means is Dharma. That is why they kept the Dharma first. Why in that, Chaturveda Purusharthas, they said Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is your end is only acquisition, enjoyment, and then going to realization, going beyond, which is moksha. In the world, beyond the world. Terrestrial goal, transcendental goal. Terrestrial goal is Artha Kama, acquisition and enjoyment. Acquisition can be anything, remember, right? Acquisition can be material, acquisition can be tangible, intangible. Acquisition can be emotional, acquisition can be intellectual. Don't restrict acquisition only to material. Acquisition can be physical, acquisition can be anything. Similarly, enjoyment also can be anything, material, physical, emotional, intellectual. But all these 2 things were happening within the realm of the world. The final goal is moksha. You have the choice to decide to reach the destination of Artha, Kama, Moksha through Dharma or not. Which means through adharma. Either through dharma you can achieve the Artha, Kama, Moksha. You can try to get to realization through backdoor entry. We can strive that also. Like this man I tried, Trishanku tried to go to heaven with the same physical body. We said, no, not allowed. This is called backdoor entry. Trying to get things done the other way. That is this adharmic. So first thing they said is dharma. Why dharma? Because keeping that as a reference point, then you go. Dharma is what? Certain codes, certain values, certain universal understandings, universal truth, Sanatana Dharma, all this. Don't restrict it to just a simple ethics, please. That's why I prefer not to translate that word, Dharma. See, take it as Dharma only. That's it. So using that, you can teach. That right usage of that is called Purushartha. Using that Purushartha, you can achieve your goal. What is the goal? This choice you have. That is why the means and the end. The sadhana and the sadhyam. Sadhana is dharma. Sadhyam is Artha, Kama, Moksha. Application of that is what is referred as Purushartha. By using that Purushartha, what you achieve? you can achieve anything. This is what Vasishta says to Rama. All that you can aspire, all that you are aspiring for in life, Rama, is acquisition, enjoyment, realization. All the three can be achieved through the application of dharma. Right? Application of dharma is called purushartha. This is the sequence. In this, is purushartha influenced by prarabdha? No. It is not. It is running parallel. But however, they are independent, but they operate dependently. Exactly like in your body, very many organs are functioning. They are independent, at the same time dependent. What is that? Suppose if you are having a problem with the kidney, lungs will not say, I am not going to do my job. I will continue to do my job. Isn't it? But at the same time, the efficiency of that to function will be influenced, will get affected to some extent. That's why they are connected, at the same time they are not connected. They are related, at the same time they are not related. This is the effort side. On the effect side, what is that karma says? Karma says you have many effects. What are the effects? We have seen three types of effects for karma. What is that? Sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, and agaami. I mean, I am including kriyamana also into this, into agami. If you want to keep to that same, you can keep that also. That is up to our choice. Depending on our freedom, we choose that. So these are the three effects. Now, having acquired so much of it, what happens in life? No point of time we have seen a life where we have exhausted all our karma. It doesn't seem to be exhausting everything. When we have not exhausted all the karmas, then what about the leftovers? That is where we come to next birth. When next birth comes, immediately we go to the next topic, birth and death. Say we wanted to study what is this birth, what is this death, right? Yes, Tanya.
Page 283, Birth and Death. The universe displays a graceful progression of events. All evolution follows a perfect sequence of rise and fall, a rhythmic motion of construction and destruction. Night follows day, and day follows night. The seasons appear and disappear in regular succession year after year. Birth, childhood, youth, old age, and death make a progressive chain. Cause and effect project themselves endlessly. The law of causation works with mathematical precision. Yet people hold fanatical beliefs that there is no life after death or that there is. Such irrational beliefs lead you nowhere. The subject of birth and death is deep, unfathomable. You cannot dismiss it thus by such speculative notions. You must study the subject carefully. Death and birth are merely a change of state, a movement from one experience to another. There is nothing terrible, abominable about death as people view it. Birth and death are two sides of a coin. There can be no birth without death, and no death without birth. Morning dies, evening is born. Evening dies, night is born. Night dies, morning is born. This chain of birth and death goes on perennially. So does the chain of birth, growth, decay, and death continue. The phenomenon of birth and death brings about change. The world is in a continuous flux of change. Creation and destruction are the warp and woof of the world. The play of these two powers maintains the mineral, vegetable, animal, and human kingdoms. Creation, destruction, and maintenance are three facets of the same phenomenon. They are not separate from one another. In the chain of creation and destruction of the different facets in the day is maintained. Likewise, in the appearance and disappearance of the seasons, the year is maintained. In the progressive ages of life, the individual is maintained. The entire universe, therefore, is an expression of the three powers of creation, destruction, and maintenance. The devotional people find it difficult to conceptualize the precise manifestation of nature. So the scripture has personified these powers as gods. Brahma as the god of creation, Shiva as the god of destruction, Vishnu, god of maintenance. Also indicated to the intellectuals that they are one by combining the three gods in the form of Dattatreya.
Universe displays a graceful play of this perfect sequence. It's a perfect rhythm. What is a perfect rhythm? In the world, first thing he is explaining is, in the world we see, there is something getting maintained. The world is maintained. How the world is maintained? It is maintained through the medium of rhythmic cycle of birth and death. That's the first thing he is establishing here. So what you see in the world is, there is a constant change we are seeing. And the change is happening through what? Through this medium of birth and death. The morning is born. Why? Because night is dead. In that constancy of birth and death of morning, noon, and night, a day is maintained. Through these various seasons, being born and dead, year is maintained. So here what we understand one thing. What is it? This chain of birth and death is what is keeping this world alive. What we are experiencing. Yes. So from this, what we understand, what is this birth and what is this death? From here, we understand one thing. That is, death means a change of a form. That's all death means. So from the first idea, what he is giving is this. The problem is people get into very many misconceptions with reference to death. We are going to see one by one what all the things that we have a misunderstanding with reference to it, and how Vedanta resolves one by one. How Vedanta helps you to correct your understanding. So here he says Vedanta doesn't give any one of those things. Vedanta presents ideas with the precise explanation is given here. So first thing he establishes is this. He says, what is this? Death means just a change of a form. Right? The form with which you are born. Our problem is we will never understand death in this language. Even when you read the topic, birth and death, without reading the entire text, if you just read the topic, everyone would be thinking we are going to be discussing physical death. You see, okay, that also will be discussed. But essentially, that is not treated as death in Vedanta, philosophically. Philosophically, that is not death. There's nothing particular importance that we give for that. See, because whole life is what? Whole life itself is nothing but this rhythmic pattern of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. The past is dead, the present is born. The present dies, future is born. That's all. And in that, what happens? Whole spectrum of time is maintained. The whole unit of time is divided into three sections: past, present, future. So what is past has to go so that present comes into reality. The present goes so that future comes into reality. Then what happens when this present has moved? It becomes the past. So whole life is only nothing but the play of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. But we understand birth and death to be in two isolated experiences. Right? Isolatedly you understand birth to be something that happened at a particular point of time, and death is going to have to be happening at a particular point of time. In between, there is a gap of a long period of time. And all of us believe that it has to be at least 80 years. What is an average Indian lifespan? Some calculations we keep. And say if a person, that's why when you see, when a young person dies, we all say, "Ayyo pavam." Suppose if a fellow were to die at the age of 90, we say what? Yeah, he lived his full life. Who decides? You are the authority, is it? So you decide. But we just say that. Why? Because we believe that, at that point of time and then this point of time. Now, Vedanta says those two are just one of the links in that entire chain. The whole chain you study, don't read in isolation. Now, we read the whole thing with isolation. That's what he says. What is death? Death is nothing but change of form. That's all. Just a change. Night has changed. Now you should see that. How this midnight to morning, same house. We used to do that in the ashram. Sometimes, suddenly midnight I wake up. I just come onto the balcony and sit and watch. 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30. And suddenly the whole area looks very different. Same ashram. The whole experience is very different. Just to see how it is gliding into. It just slides in. At what point it is night, at what point it is day. Very difficult to decipher. How slowly it gets in. I wouldn't say slow. It has a constant speed. Now, we think, it is slow. For us, it is going at a particular constant pace. It just moves, slides. Slowly it slides in. Same way, evening also. Same thing, noon. How it slips in. Same you can see with the seasons also. There is so much of hot, we keep saying. And suddenly hot is gone. It's pouring. 2 days, just a matter of 2 days. The whole place looks very different. At the first shower comes, you go to sleep, wake up and come out and see, it looks totally different. The whole place is like that. The change. Now, this constant change, remember, not easy to perceive. See, even though when we are discussing about night dies, day is born, or summer dies, autumn born, autumn dies, spring born, spring dies, this born, that born. No, there's no problem for us. Hearing that is fantastic. Correct. There's a season that you made a mistake. There, Englishman says 4 seasons. Now we have 6 seasons. In India, we have 6 seasons, They have, that's what we call as ritus here. It is 6 here. Each season changes. This is not our problem. Now, our problem will be when you see that constant existence of birth and death happening simultaneously, you can't digest it. See, even though when you read that in the paragraph, it looks childhood dies, boyhood born, boyhood dies, youthhood born, youthhood dies. In this chain of birth and death, you are maintained. When you hear that, it looks correct, no? But when you see it, remember, it is not the same. This is exactly what is dramatized and presented to us in the Bhagavad Gita. See, in the Gita, the 10th chapter of the Gita, Krishna gives account of his glory. His vibhuti is explained, the glory of God. And after hearing that, Arjuna asks in the 11th chapter, you had spoken me so much, how beautiful you are, how great you are. Can I see? Right. The moment you say that, automatically that desire comes, to see that. Then Krishna says, look here, you can't see with your normal vision. I'll give you a special eye. Like when you go for the 3D movies, they give one glass. Spectacles they give. With that spectacles only you can see that. Otherwise, everything is blurred. Same way, Krishna said, I'll give you special eyes. Okay, he gave the special eyes. And with that special eye, what did Arjuna see there? After showing that Vishwarupa, Arjuna sees that. The moment Arjuna sees that, he is terrified. He is not excited, remember. He is terrified. He got so scared and told Krishna to take it back. And he says to Krishna that, no, come back to your original form. Right, come back to the normal form. I don't want this Vishwarupa. Take it back, he says. Why? What is it that he saw? He got so terrified. He saw this. What? Birth and death happening simultaneously. This birth and death to see simultaneous and take it, digest it, accept it. Not easy, remember. That is what the significance of that episode there in the Gita. You see, many of us will think, when you hear certain, truths of life, looks fascinating. But when you have to go through it, when you live it, it gives a very different experience altogether to you. You see? So there, he saw these two things happening. Now we understand death is what? Death is happening over a long period of time. Birth happened at a point of time, death happens at another point of time. When we dismiss it like that, then there is no problem, what he says. But when he is saying here, this cause and effect is projecting endless. What is the cause? What is the effect? Birth and death is the cause and effect. Death is possible only because of what? Birth. If there is no birth, there is no death possibility, isn't it? That if your soul has a choice to take birth, right, then the soul should be having a choice to die also, no? How can you say no? From where did the choice of birth come from? From where did the choice of death come from? What has caused it? What is that? And why there is so much of problem we have? Because, see, one thing all of us know, and it is so interesting question, you can think over it. It's just a question of your, testing your memory. That's all. There's nothing logical question here. It's a good test of your memory. What is it? Go back in your life. When was the first time you thought that there is death and you will also die one day? What age? Go back. Right. It's a very interesting exercise to do. To see at what age you got this thought. See, somewhere down the line you thought. I don't think anyone who's sitting here says, sir, I don't think I'm going to die. Right? Everyone says what? Theoretically, everyone says what? Correct. Everyone has to go no one day. Correct. But the question is not that. The question is, when even though you keep saying that on one side of it, on the other side of it, we don't live through like that, isn't it? Why? Because our understanding of birth and death is what? Death is going to happen at a distant future, not now. See, now it's not. Now when I say, don't think immediately, as I'm talking, I'll drop dead. Plop, I will die. It is not like that, please. Immediately people think, anytime you can die. It's not that anytime you can die. Every moment you are dying. Can you recognize that? The moment you recognize, what will happen? Arjuna condition only. Take it back. Take it back. I don't want it. Says it becomes terrific. It is so scary for us. Nachiketa is the only fellow who had the courage to go and meet Yama. He went up to Lord Yama and he had the courage to question him about death. He said, what is this, man? Please tell me. Oh, one group of fellows are saying, that's it, everything is over. Another group of people are saying, there are people who are going there and living, and then, then this happens, that happens, and all that. Another group says, now please tell me which is correct. Lord Yama says, why are you worried about all that? You are so young. He dodges. And he is going on dodging. Krishna looks far better than Yama, because as soon as Arjuna asks a question, Krishna starts eloquently giving answers. But Yama is not giving like that. Yama is, testing this boy. Says, don't basic. He is dissuading him. He is not motivating at all. He demotivates him. Says, what are you doing? Why do you want to do this? The death, what are we doing all the time? All the time we look for solutions for others' death. Isn't it? Every time you are discussing, when you are listening to this death the discussion, birth and death discussion, you never think it is with reference to you. Always you think it is with reference to somebody else. Why do you go on, dismissing this idea? So interesting. This is what Yudhishthira says. that Yaksha. When this Pandavas were in exile, how many of you know the story? These Pandavas were in exile for 12 years. One day, one Brahmin came crying to these Pandavas. Said, please help me too, because one, a deer had taken my stick, which I used to kindle fire, is gone. So can you help me to get it? And these Pandavas being the, protectors, they had to go. So they go in search of that deer. They go in. They go so deep into the forest. Right? The name of the forest is very interesting. Dvaitavana, duality. They have gone so deep into the duality, lost in the forest of duality. So they are all these names they are giving in the stories are so interesting. Every name they have, how they depict, the depiction is so interesting. Like in Ramayana, we have Ravana. Is depicted as a man who had a kingdom. In his flag, he had Veena in his flag. You can imagine his emblem is that Veena equipment. Such a musical, loving person. A very interesting one. Each one of it. So here, they go in search of it, and they go in search, they couldn't find. And because of their running, they get tired. So Yudhishthira tells, Sahadeva, says, go and find out, man, is there any water nearby? Some pond or something close by. And he goes and he finds one pond. And he goes near the pond. He drinks that water, he dies. After some time, they're waiting for Sahadeva. He is not coming back. So they sent Nakula in search of Sahadeva now. So when Nakula goes in search of it, they would have given, in this, we keep, giving that tricks and all would be taught for this, NCC camps when you go in the forest. When you are going in a particular direction, you are supposed to inform others, for which they give certain clues. They crack a particular, trees, this one bark here, they leave one mark here, mark there. All that, similarly, they also must have had something. So he goes in search and he comes exactly the same spot. And he sees Sahadeva dead. He's so thirsty. So he is searching, he couldn't find any reason for Sahadeva's death. So he says, okay, let me go and drink water. He goes, he drinks, and he also dies. Same story for Arjuna, same story for Bhima. Now only Yudhishthira is alone. So now Yudhishthira comes in search of his brothers. He sees those 4 brothers, is dead. And he also thinks the same way. Okay, let me have water first and then probe into what has happened to these people. He goes near that pond. There is one sound, voice that comes from Yaksha. He says, I am the protector of this lake. Your brothers didn't heed my warning. You are supposed to answer my questions. If you answer my questions appropriately to my satisfaction, then I will allow you to drink water. Otherwise, I will not. This is the condition. Your brothers didn't heed my warning. They drank water. They are all dead. Now, you also don't do that same mistake. Yudhishthira says, okay, now ask your questions. And Yaksha asks so many questions. one of the fascinating portion of the, from Mahabharata, is known as Yaksha Prashna. There, it asks this, one of the questions posed by the Yaksha to Yudhishthira. What is the wonderment in the world? This is the question. So for every question, what the way I read it like this, I won't read the answer. What is my answer? I will check always. Okay, what is my answer? If someone were to ask, what is a wonder? Right, we'll say what? Taj Mahal, wonderment is there. Taj Mahal is this one, that one. You'll only give one. I'm from India, therefore, first thought I'll get is Taj Mahal. That's all. Right. If you are from Europe, you will give something else. If you are from China, you will say one thing. Each one will give one thing and says this. No, we'll give this. But Yudhishthira gives one peculiar answer. He says, you know what is the wonderment world? People see death all around them. But they don't believe they are going to die. They live their life as though they are going to live forever. See, you see dying. It is so fascinating to see this phenomenon. That's the real wonderment, he says. Now, if at all you discuss about death, you wanted to gain the knowledge of birth and death and all this. Solution to yours or solution to somebody else's. You wanted to gain this knowledge of detachment. Do you want to get detached or you want others to get detached? This is the problem, That's why in this Vedanta class, if husband is attending, wife will not attend. If wife is attending, husband will not attend. Anywhere husband and wife are to attend together, there is a problem. Right? What is the problem? Every conversation these two were to have, they will discuss only this. This is mind. You are attached. This is involvement. Don't be impulsive, tamasic. Many times I wonder, my God, even I don't know so much about Vedanta. These people know a lot about Vedanta. They can never have a normal husband and wife conversation. See, there will be Guru-Shishya relationship only will be there between the two. And the tragedy is both of them will be gurus. That's the problem. You see, both becomes guru. So why? Whereas our scriptures, they say, it has to be given to the first guru is the father to the child. The first guru for the girl is the husband. Husband should be the guru of that person. Now, immediately don't say, you have to fall at my feet. If you are really a guru, they'll follow. If you are not, they'll say, die. And today we feel that we're so happy about it. Weird life. So interesting to see people. When you gain this knowledge, when you are starting to gain this knowledge in the very initial stages, you believe you are going there to the source of this knowledge to make your life better, to change yourself, to do something for you, right? You keep doing it. After a period of time, you know what? You start attempting to change the source itself. Yes, sir. It's not like that, Yeah, correct. Half the time, people call me. They say, what are you talking so much? The only word I use maximum is, yeah, correct. Yes. Yes. Yeah, correct. Correct and yes is the only words I use maximum. Because everyone calls only for what? It's so interesting. I'm not saying it is wrong, okay? I'm saying it just changes in that format over a period of time. You see, in one angle, it is so beautiful. In another angle, it is very dangerous. Remember, devotionally, it is fascinating. At the emotional level, it is so fantastic. It is so beauty. There's a tremendous beauty about it. Intellectually, it is dangerous. Remember this. Wherever there is a devotional direction, it is fine. It's accepted, allowed. At the level of emotions, this is the right way to go about it. This shows you have grown. Intellectually, you are completely blocked. This attitude is dangerous. I'll just explain myself. When you go to God, you go to God for what? To seek protection from Him, right? He is big, I am small, I surrender to you. Please take care of me. Is the attitude with which you will go. As your bhakti starts growing, a point will come where instead of you taking the help from God, instead of you seeking God's protection, you will start believing it is your duty to protect God. Devotion. That's what you see with all these great devotee stories you see. All that they do will be looking like what? Absurd in our eyes. But when you understand this evolution of bhakti, devotion, this is what happens. The initial stages, we look up to the parents to educate us, to help us, to protect us, and all those things. After a period of time, what happens? We start feeling, no, they need to be protected by us now. They need to be taught by us now. They need to be guided by us now. I have to take care of them. Who is elder? Who is younger? Elder is the one who is should be taking care of the younger one. Right? But a point comes where suddenly the role reverses. You see, this is allowed in relationships. Wherever there is an emotional transactions, there it is allowed. When it comes to intellectual transactions, applying the same rule will be counterproductive. Instead of you growing out of that, you will start deteriorating because of that. That's where after a point of time, instead of studying all these things for your growth, you start studying all these things with this, how can I change the world? Now, did you start studying Vedanta to change the world? If you say yes, correct. I say then you are on your own track. Whether it will materialize or not and all is a different equation, but you are on your track at least. But in the initial stages, when you started your pursuit of Vedanta, you started gaining this knowledge about what is attachment. I wanted to understand what is attachment. For what? To know whether my husband is attached to me, wife is attached to me, my child is attached to me, my neighbor is attached to me, my parents attached to me. To tell them, don't be attached to me. For that did you, or I don't want to get attached. I don't want to have this negative thing in me. What is it? This is where the knowledge is very important. Remember, when you are studying this idea of birth and death, Don't study this as a solution to somebody else's. It is a solution to yours. We are discussing about your birth and your death. Now, about your birth and your death, when I say, we are not discussing about your physical birth and your physical death. Immediately people take only that. That's what he is, demolishing first. And the first one, we will never pick it up. The first point is never picked up by people. The first step, all of us make mistake. After that, all correct. The mistake is only in the first step. The first step he gives is birth and death means change of form. That's all. But then we don't digest it. We don't accept it. We don't understand it. To make us understand only, the scriptures have attempted very many ways. In one of the ways is which they have given a new God himself was created as Dattatreya. All three are not three different things, man. They are same. They are one and the same thing. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. God of creation, God of maintenance, and the God of destruction. They are not three different things. They are one and the same. It is simultaneous. It is happening parallelly. But our problem is what? We can enjoy birth. We celebrate birth. We detest and denounce death. Death I don't want, sir. See, birth I want. Birth everybody asks. See, Vedanta says, why is it so? Why are you conveniently forgetting about this possibility, even though you know for certain? You know for certain that you are going to die. There is no doubt about it. Even though you know that, you live your life as though it is not. Why you are not consciously looking in that direction? Why do you even avoid looking in that direction? It's like many times we see people in the signal, when the beggars come, you avoid having an eye contact with them. You see, so interesting. I was living for about 1.5 years, just in the corner of a junction. 24/7, there'll be traffic there, 24/7. The entertainment for me was this. There's no TV I had at that time. You see, so 1.5 years, for the first about 3-4 years, I didn't have TV with me. So how do you entertain yourself? Can't be reading all the time, right? So entertainment, I'll go and stand. It is so interesting to see people. After a point of time, the beggars have started, having a conversation with me. In a new way, they said, we have to enroll in our association. Okay, take a membership first. So almost after that, I stopped. 2-3 fellows became my friends. And that fruit wala became my good friend. So every day he will give me some fruits. The fruit which is about to go waste, rotten. Just before that, he will say, take it, man. I'll say thank you, and I'll take it and come. It's so interesting to see. And I would stand there and watch people. Why can't you look into the eyes of the beggar and say no? See, anyway you are saying no, okay? I'm not saying you have to give, right? That is your choice. You give or you don't give. That is your choice. I'm not worried about what you do and all that. But it is so interesting to see. And the person who looks into the eyes of the beggar and says no, vis-a-vis the other one who is not even looking at him. who looks heartless in our eyes? Right? If I ask you theoretically, all of you will answer what? That not even looking at him is a heartless one. Very bad that is. Very wrong that is. Then why are you not doing it? Say no. After that, be normal. You cannot be. You see, somewhere down the line, something pinches. There is a pinprick. Something pricks inside you. Right? Just to avoid that prick, what do you do? You behave as though they don't exist. Isn't it? As though you don't pay attention to them. I have another better example, but I cannot give it now. Those who want to know, call me. Right? I'll give. It is so interesting to see, people. What is it? It hits you so hard. That's what the point is. When you look at them, that hurt, that pain, to say no. See, you give 2 rupees to them, that is different. You give 5 rupees to them, you give 1 rupee to them, you give 100, you give 1,000. How much you give is not the point. You give 5 rupees or you give 10 rupees or you give whatever you give. If you give it, then that is not my equation. I'm not bringing them into account at all. I'm talking about people who are saying no and the person who is not even paying attention. When a person not paying attention, essentially what is he doing? He registers. It is not that he is totally absent-minded. One person used to come and pick me to the class. And with pride, he used to tell me, sir, in signals, 60-second signal means I'll fall off to sleep. He said, hey. And he thought, he is equal to Swamiji. Because Swamiji would say that, in 20 seconds, you fall off to sleep. He says, in 60 seconds, I will fall off to sleep in 20 seconds, sleep for another 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and then I wake up and start the car and move. Dangerous fellow, I said. Very interesting one. It's not that you are not registering. You are registering that beggar is standing there and they are knocking at your window. You register all that, but you don't even turn in that direction. Why? It is so uncomfortable. Same way for us, that's what Yudhishthira says. What is the wonder? People register that they are going to die, but they don't look in the direction at all. The question is why? Why Arjuna could not see that Vishwarupa, which he asked for. Of course, there is a, there is a trick, played by Krishna there. Right? What he told him in the 10th chapter is not what he showed him in the 11th chapter. He told one thing in the 10th chapter, he showed something else in the 11th chapter. Such a cheat, that fellow. So he says, you are my good friend, therefore I'm giving you a special eyewear. Says, dangerous person, To be friend with Krishna is very dangerous. Okay. But it is so interesting. Arjuna asks for it and he sees something. And what is he seeing and getting terrified? He sees this and gets terrified. And Yudhishthira reports this in the other place. And then you have Nachiketas. You got to add all that. Remember, all the stories you need to add together. When you add together, why is it that we glorify Nachiketas so much? What is it that Yudhishthira says, he's not explaining on what basis he says it is wonderment and all that, but the fact remains the same, that we all register, but at the same time, we don't look in that direction. Why? There is so much of fear we have with reference to the idea of death itself. See, even to discuss about it is very uncomfortable for us. The very idea is painful. Now, to think about it in a very theoretical manner is not a problem at all. Youthhood is gone, boyhood gone, youthhood is born, youthhood goes, manhood born, manhood goes, old age born, old age goes, this one born. In that your life is not a problem for us. Theoretically, none of us will have any issues. None of us will have a problem when we say Dattatreya. Yeah, Dattatreya is a very good God, sir. He's the one who said, 27 gurus or 24 gurus. You go into those details. How come, what is the origin of Dattatreya's birth? Then immediately you go to an encyclopedia and try and figure out, what is Dattatreya, do study about Dattatreya. But the essential point through Dattatreya is what? Essentially, through this, what is he trying to communicate? He says, death is happening to you every day, every moment. Don't you know that? Of course you know it. But then why you are not paying attention to it? Exactly like the beggar is standing there and knocking at the door, knocking at this window. You register, but at the same time, you don't look in the direction. Why? Says. For which you need to go back to your understanding of death. The problem for all of us is our understanding of death is only physical death. We do not understand death in any other manner. Any number of times we can go on repeating this paragraph reading. Again and again and again, you can read that paragraph. But still, the moment you close the book and utter that word death, instantly your thought is going to be reference to what? Somebody lying down, not reacting, responding to anything. This is so interesting, people talk. Yesterday I was speaking to him, sir. So you spoke to him means what? I said, so what? Speaking, Ramanala Pesindar. Say, you're speaking so nicely to us. He was actually inquiring about, you also. Oh. And then what? See, you can never understand death in any other fashion. You understand your concept of death is only one dimension. Because of that understanding of yours, something is getting triggered in your personality. Right? Every understanding is not just going to be sitting as understanding in you. It is going to be triggering something in you. There is an emotional response that you get for every understanding, isn't it? So the moment you understand someone to be a sincere, genuine, trustworthy, when you see that person, when you think about that person, when you interact with that person, one type of reaction happens in you. When you have an understanding inside you, this person is not trustworthy, he is not a good person, he is not genuine, he is very suspicious, he is very slimy. If that is your understanding, then your response, emotional response to that is very different, isn't it? Remember, in every understanding, that is why every understanding is so critical in life. This is the most important aspect in thinking. Because when you are any problem solving, you have to do in life, any problem in the world, no matter which aspect of the problem is, every problem solving thinking of yours happens in the backdrop of a concept. Remember this. If that concept is not clear to you, then your problem solving is going to be muddled. Thinking is going to be muddled. That is why Vedanta goes on talking about concept and concept and concept and concept. Vedanta never comes to this side. It says, get to the concept, get to the concept. People think it is impractical. What you fail to recognize is, in every thinking of yours, all thinking of yours are happening with a particular concept in the background. The one who has that intellectual alertness is one who is able to capture that concept instantly. Get that theorem, get that idea behind it. And then comes rest of it. If the concept is not clear, it's impossible. You see, this is one of the things we teach. These are all basics. Remember, this is not something very high level thinking or anything. This is basics in thinking, fundamentals of thinking. When you say, I am thinking, thinking means you are resolving a problem. You are trying to find a solution to some problem. Any problem solving thinking or even a creative thinking should have a concept. It's not only with reference to problem solving. Even creative thinking has a concept behind it. Without that concept, there is no way you can, that's the frame. Your thinking is just a frill, fits in, that's it. You know, it's like engine of a car and the accessories. Now today, we pay so much of attention to the accessories, we forget the engine. Same engine only. Body is different. You are willing to pay so much for that. Said, hey, same engine, no. I said, same engine, just change that, different type of plastic they put for the dashboard. You are charged heavily for that. And we don't even know that we are paying for this. Why? Today, our things have gone for the accessories. Now, accessories are secondary, please. Primary thing is to get to the root of the thing. What is the root? Concept is the root. What is your concept of death? Your concept of death is birth at one point, death at some other point. Not simultaneous. It's not happening together. Because you have this concept that birth happens at one point, death happens at another point, so many things are happening in you. That is why first he is explaining this point. He says it is a rhythmic pattern, all poetry. This book, suddenly in the book you will become, in prose form he will write poetry. Very, peculiar author. There are people, poetry is, their, prose is written as poetry. What is the difference in vertical writing and horizontal writing? If you write the letters, words, vertical, it's poetry. If you put it in, horizontal one, it is prose. It's very, very poetic. You see, universe displays a graceful progression of events. A graceful progression of events and poetry, full of poetry. This is all evolution follows a perfect sequence of rise and fall, a rhythmic motion of construction, destruction. Poetry. Suddenly he switches over to poetry. If you read that, previous paragraph and this paragraph, suddenly there's a change. Now, why he is bringing this first? Why this build up? Is just to give you the time to digest. It's just buying time. That's all. It's like whenever we forget some point, immediately we'll take a glass of water and drink. Now, people think, we are very thirsty, talking. The point marudboch. Next point is, we have forgotten what to say now, how to buy time. When people ask questions, we don't know the answer. So when we don't know the answer, what do? We have to buy time. There is a sensible way of buying time. That's why we keep a glass of water here. So that whenever we have a trouble, take a drink. Now you people think, yo, pao, so sad, he's been talking so much, so he must be feeling thirsty. And there's one lady gave one powder also for me. She prepared the class. She prepared and gave me. She said, you must have it before the class and after the class, okay? And the instruction was very stern for Kritika. He said, you have to give it before and after, okay? Don't put it in water. He said, that instruction also been given. What they don't understand is the moment, don't think all the time it's a case, okay? Sometimes we feel genuinely also. Sometimes don't say, see, he forgot. Sometimes we genuinely feel thirsty. So we drink. But it is so interesting to see, unless you have the grounding on the concept, that conceptual clarity alone can facilitate your thinking clarity. Otherwise, your thinking will be confused and muddled, and you would not be able to arrive at the proper conclusions in life. So get to your concept. Our concept of birth and death were to be birth at one point, death at another point, not simultaneous. There are repercussions. What is the repercussion of that? Definitely, we will recognize it, but we will not look in the direction. Whenever we are forced to look in the direction, you will get scared. This is what we understand from the episode. We don't look in the direction. Why? Beggar. Example. When you are forced to look in the direction, like Arjuna, we'll say what? Take it back. Put me back to my old mode. What is my old mode? Of indifference. He says, don't do that mistake. Only then he is actually going to start the analysis. Right? So before he is going to give the understanding, we need to get certain points clear for us. This is not his job. This is our job to do. Now we need to figure out, sir, if we understand life, birth and death were to be two different points of time, that understanding creates what in me, what it does to me, and how this understanding creates whatever it creates in me. And then we move to the next idea. Okay, we'll see you in the next class. There you go.